Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of hotly anticipated racing action in the middle of the pack Racing League GTE League for 2026 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. That's right folks, our GTE extravaganza is back for round number 3 of 8 and we continue the story of the US Cup today by making our way all the way to Road America in the US state of Wisconsin. Now one of the arguably best circuits the USA has to offer for multiple reasons and I can give you at least 3. Firstly, the fact that this circuit has seen its layout remain unchanged since its opening in 1955, and secondly, the fact that with this layout, it roars its way through the local countryside and it is an absolute screamer of a circuit. Taking its way through the scenic views on the Kettle Moraine Scenic Drive, it is one of those circuits that has long straights, heavy braking zones into hairpins and sweeping bends, and therefore for drivers has a little bit of everything to present a challenge. And the third part of it all, well, with long straights and plenty of braking zones, it means there's plenty of opportunities to provide exciting overtakes, and that's why Road America has been a staple of any domestic, national and international series that visits the US of A on a yearly basis, and our drivers look forward to taking it on today in this third round of racing action. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from the circuit side as you tune in tonight on the 1A place that you can catch all the racing action from this league for 2026, as of course and YouTube at youtube.com and search for Walsh Productions or PWP, and you can catch it all there. Now, this being a post-round broadcast, what that does mean is that the racing action you're tuning into today is not live. It actually occurred on Wednesday, the 25th of March, 2026, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live today, and it's Saturday, the 28th of March, 2026, and therefore it means we do not know in the Conte booth who's going to the best in practice, which is gradually coming to a close in the background, nor the upcoming qualifying session, or most importantly and critically, the race, our 45-minute race, which is just around the corner. So therefore, it's as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience for you guys and girls tuning in at home. And of course, we do ask if you are in the YouTube chat right now as this broadcast premieres and you do see somebody in there who's not up to speed, we'll try not to spoil it for them because then and again we want to reveal the outcome as it occurs. Indeed, we've avoided any spoilers here in the Conte booth. Speaking of commentary, you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds. And in terms of our schedule for today, times in Eastern Daylight Time, that's EDT, or Universal Coordinate Time -4, UTC -4, we're going to see in approximately what will be about 8 minutes time. We're making our way into our third qualifying session of the season, 10 minutes in duration, all the drivers out there on circuit looking to go for pole position, after which we'll then be making our way to the grid for our 45-minute sprint race at 20 past 8 this evening. Indeed, after our first 2 rounds absolutely brimming with battle in action, I suspect the tempo is only going to stay high today as our drivers get ready to take on this wonderful circuit in the US of A. So without further ado, let's give you a recap of the story so far and bring you up to speed with what we can expect here in round number 3. We begin then by taking a look back at our calendar, and we opened up, of course, at Road Atlanta, the roller coaster ride of road racing in the US state of Georgia. Then continuing the theme of the US Cup, last time out, we were in the US state of New York for the Watkins Glen International Circuit. And at the affectionately known Glen, what exactly happened on the 11th of March? Well, we got to see some absolutely incredible battles at night, because, of course, practice was mid-afternoon, qualifying was late in the evening, and then we went to night time with limited lighting. The headlights were on full beam, and we got to see some absolutely brilliant scenes. Our drives roared the way around the wonderful previous American Grand Prix circuit, but what we saw at the very front was a three-way fight for victory in the Pro Class and overall, and in the end it would be Matt Best on his debut for the purposes of this series who was able to bring home his first win of the season, but he was hounded, he was chased furiously by James Logsdon every step of the way, and in the final 4 laps they were only separated by no more than 3/4 of a second, although a small error from James Logsdon going on to the final lap meant he couldn't quite find a way to get through for victory and Best would hold on. But do not forget Eric Lagai, who was also in the fight, and to an unfortunate drive-through penalty due to instant points put him out of the running for a podium spot. But in the Pro-Am class meanwhile, Jermaine Warren was able to take his first win of the season. And it was a very different story because whilst he may have qualified behind Tom Bryce, who took the Pro-Am pole position, in the race he was able to make great progress, particularly when Bryce had an early instant with Gabriel Ferrero. And on top of that as well, a big surprise, Donald Seepet was nowhere to be seen in terms of pace. Indeed, his dominant pace all the way back at Road Atlanta was not to materialise, and therefore it completely shook up and stirred the Pro-Am class. And that's exactly how things concluded with regards to your winners in each of the classes and overall. But we've got plenty more stories to tell when it comes to the championship standings. On more on those shortly. So today we're here at the Road America circuit in the state of Wisconsin, and after this round we'll then be making our way all the way to Sebring in Florida for the first of our feature race rounds, where we have a longer race and no qualifying session, and we'll brief you on the rules there when we do make our way to round number 4 on the 8th of April, albeit that broadcast will be post-round understandably. Then we'll be having our mid-season break, but effectively there is no break for this season because there's 2 weeks break between each and every round, but we do have the split there, and we make it away from the US Cup into the Euro Cup, which is a celebration of major European circuits, many of them home to GTE racing from 1999 through to 2023, and we'll be kicking that off in round number 5 at Barcelona a sprint race on the 22nd of April. But that's a bit further away. Let's stay right now in the present, or the past we could say, given the nature of this broadcast. We're going to treat it as the present, and let's bring you up to speed with regards to our championship standings after 2 rounds of racing. We begin then with the Pro Drivers' Championship, and here we can see James Logsdon leads the way, and with a second place added to a previous second place, Logsdon right now definitely looking to be the driver who's in form, trying to bolt away as quickly as he can. However, the pressure understandably will be building from behind, and Chad Henson is the driver trying to mount that pressure, albeit he didn't quite have the pace compared to how he performed at Road Atlanta, and indeed as a result taking home 3rd place, promoted to that 3rd place at Watkins Glen as a result of Eric Leguy's penalty midway through. Otherwise it would have been a 4th place, so a gap is growing there, the best part of 7 points. Gabriel Ferrero sits in 3rd on 80 points, only 5 ahead of Shahi Zahair, and the difference being that Gabriel Ferrero, he was very close to the back of Henson in qualifying, but a very poor start in the race meant he got caught up with Tom Bryce in the opening stages, and he spent more time fighting with the primes rather than his fellow pros. And do keep in mind, of course, in this championship, drivers score points based on their overall finishing position first and foremost. It's only in the prime class, the lower of our 2 classes, they do score bonus points of being on the podium of 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third. So therefore, this is a championship, much like all GTE leagues hosted by the Middle Pack Racing League and all series hosted by us, whereby you are encouraged to fight with everybody, not just your class rivals. But as we do see Shahi Zahair sitting in 4th on 75 points, only 3 ahead of Taylor Bookout, and then we have Eric Leguy tied on points, but behind based on result countback. Blake Phillips sits in 7th ahead of Jason Landry, and it's Matt Best, Julian Jones, and David Adie completing your 11 pro drivers after 2 rounds. But keep your eyes out for Matt Best, because of course he did miss our season opener, but with a drop score in effect for the overall championship as we go on, you can understand the point that he'll be definitely looking to see how far he can move forward as the season goes on. Although I suspect this is going to put him out of running of the US Cup honours, where he's going to be looking for those overall Drivers' Championship honours later in the season. As for the Prime Championship, meanwhile, here we can see after 2 rounds, Jermaine Warren leads by only a single point over Donald Seapeck, and it is a story of 2 halves so far, whereby Jermaine Warren has been Mr. Consistent. Donald Seapeck, he's had great bursts of pace at Road Atlanta, but the pace was nowhere to be found last time out. Indeed, it was a 3rd place finish in the end, and well, he rued missing out on 2nd place to Mark Senegal, who was just out of reach in the 2nd stint at Watkins Glen, and Senegal with that 2nd place has leapt up to 4th. But between the two, Glenn Bratton on 69 points there, and well, with a 4th place last time out, he had a very challenging qualifying session with 6th in class, and things did not quite go right in the end, although he was able to pick up points and places as a result of other drivers making errors or picking up black flag drive-through penalties. So therefore, Bratton proving that sometimes you just got to be consistent to be rewarded, much like Jermaine Warren, albeit Warren bringing on home the victory, of course, last time out. But Mark Senegal in 4th place behind there, a further 2 points. It's then a further 1 to Roger Ganesh, and then we do see Carl Peterson, Tom Bryce, and Billman DaCosta completing your current Pro-Am Championship standings after 2 rounds of racing. So that's where the standings stand. Let's bring you up to speed with our host circuit. It is, of course, the full course layout of Road America, located near the village of Elkhart Lake in Sheboygan County in the US state of Wisconsin. A huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it, and this circuit absolutely iconic for so many reasons, as we explained earlier. As our drivers roar the way up the start-finish straight, giving it some major elevation rise from turn 14 to the start-finish line, and then see things flatten out as they make their way in towards turn number 1. And with the sweeping right-hander, they'll be fast through that complex, and onwards they'll go down towards turn number 3. They'll be hard on the brakes after the kink of 2 before they go out the 90-degree right-hander and onto the second long straight that sees them make all the way down from the Moraine sweep and in towards turn number 5. A heavy braking zone of weight, a left-hander there that's more than 90 degrees, and as they come out to low-speed bend, it's then uphill into the tight middle sector where the corner complexes are absolutely rife. Over the rise and in towards turn number 6, an unsighted corner and entry, you have to brake uphill, and we can expect our drivers to lock up their brakes if they're a bit too aggressive with the brake pedal. But as they come out of the sharp left-hander, it will then be into the quick right of Hurry Downs, and they'll roar the way all the way through into the 90-degree left-hander of turn number 8, where again our drivers will find themselves under pressure there with battles. Going through the carousel turns 9 and 10, they'll then make their way flat out for the infamous kink bend at turn number 11, while heading all the way down towards Canada Quarter at 12, and then they'll come back for the sweeping rise at turns 13 and 13A, or going through 14 as quickly as they can, and going full throttle all the way to another lap, alternatively to the checker flag on the final lap. Now, a quick reminder of the rules for the uninitiated. This is a fixed setup series where the setups are provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League administration, and fuel loads have been restricted to 50%. Qualifying is open, which means that we will see all drivers out of the circuit together, and therefore they need to be wary of each other, but they can also tactically use each other for a slipstream. And indeed, with the long straights around here, a good tow is going to be beneficial. It could be worth up to half a second a lap. Now, because this is a sprint race round, we will see the race shall start by a rolling start, as it will for any racing round in the GTE League. And each driver has one fast repair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 10 or more instant points. Indeed, that encourages driver not to make contact and also to be consistent with track limits. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to circuit side, because as we do, well, practice is complete. It's time for qualifying, but who exactly is going to be putting it on pole? Well, let's find out here as 10 minutes begins to tick away. And as it does so, we'll drive starting to make the way out the pit lane immediately here. We have 14 drivers who've made the journey here to Road America today, but we've got some fresh faces on the grid, and right at the front here in the Red Bull livery machine, Ryan Otis, the number 3 driver in the Porsche 911 RSR. He's new to the grid for the Middle of the Pack Racing League as a whole, so we give him a warm welcome and we wish Ryan all the best of luck on his debut. And in the practice session, he was definitely looking quick. He was right up there, the very best of the times. Therefore, we're wondering just how quick he's going to be with regards to going green flag racing here today. And I suspect he could be trying to chase down a maiden win on his debut, and well, that definitely would be a way to set pulses running. But as he heads on down, we also have another newcomer here, also in a Porsche 911 RSR. It's Matthew Morehart as he comes on through turn number 1 there, trying to get some tyre temperature immediately. And he's brand new to the Middle of the Pack Racing League as well. And we welcome the number 12 driver with open arms, and we wish him all the best luck with his debut. We also do have a third driver who's making their debut for this series today, but they are not a newcomer to the Middle of the Pack Racing League. They are a driver many of you will be familiar with. Here he is, albeit not in his infamous plaid livery machine, which saw him take the 2024 LMP3 Pro Championship title, because it's none other than the number 99 that we all know and love. It is Edwin Onofre here, and a big welcome to him. It's so good to see Edwin back once again, and indeed he's been a staple of Middle of the Pack Racing League series for as long as I've been commentating them, all the way back to 2022, if not 2021, with the first series I ever covered being the TCR series. That was absolutely ram-packed. Indeed, I still remember that season opener from the, not the Lime Rock Park circuit. I always get it confused with Summit Point. Summit Point Raceway is where we opened that one up, and definitely it was elbows out every step of the way. But we're very happy to see Edwin back today, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in a GTE machine. But as he waits his way on out, well, some of you might be wondering at this point, well, what can we expect today? Well, the big topical item, and you'll notice that several drivers have changed their cars. They're permitted to, because we have had a complete refresh of the GTE class on iRacing. Indeed, this round coming after the 2026 Season 2 update, which saw the tyre model plus the physics engine for the GTs completely revolutionised into the modern format that we've seen for the GT3s and other categories. But what do you exactly need to know? Well, when it does mean now these cars, they have more realistic setups on them, whereby the front splitter, which was previously clipping through the tarmac with regards to the settings it could have, that's been completely removed. These cars are much closer now to how they were in reality when they were retired from racing in 2023. And also until that, with the new tyre model, it also means we have the possibility of wet weather tyres in these cars now. Indeed, they can race in the wet just as much as they can in the dry, much like they did in real life. So that's going to be very exciting. It also means with the new tyre model, these cars now behave a little bit differently. And from what we've been hearing down the paddock, as we do look to Shahid Zahair's BMW M8 GTE, is the fact these tyres now take a bit more time to warm up, much like GT3 tyres. However, when they are warmed up, the grip levels are very similar to the peak grip levels that we saw previously on the older tyre model, the GTEs. The only difference is the tyre operating window is a little bit more sensitive in general for all the cars. But it's interesting what this has actually done with the addition of an additional balance of performance adjustment as well, whereby we have seen all these cars put back into the blender and then shaken back out to see exactly where they balance versus each other. What it means is the cars that have the widest operating window, such as the Corvette C8R GTE, which you see only one today in the hands of Jermaine Warren, the Pro-Am Championship leader, these cars actually seen their operating window slightly reduced in terms of the fact that this car was considered to be the best for a long time, over the best part of 2 years in the GT category on iRacing, not because it was the fastest over a single lap, although it was good over a single lap, but because this car was so strong over race distance. Indeed, where other cars took their tyres apart, this car just kept its tyres going. It was a tyre whisperer. Conversely, albeit we don't have one here today, the Ferrari 488 GTE Evo has now seen its operating window expanded to a degree, whereby it's not as sensitive with regards to tyre temperatures and brake temperatures anymore, so therefore it has a little bit more longevity. And well, understandably, James Logsdon has done an absolutely brilliant job with the car, but he has now gone to the Porsche 911 RSR. And the Porsche does seem to be a very safe bet from what we've seen so far, albeit it's early days of the new balance of performance, but we are seeing the Porsche be a very popular car across multiple GTE leagues, including the iRacing official GTE Sprint Series. Now, there are multiple reasons for that. It's not necessarily because the car is overpowered, necessarily, as some would describe, but indeed, it is also that car that's absolutely iconic. When you think GTE, you think of this car because of the fact it's a 9,000 RPM naturally aspirated screamer of an engine. Indeed, one of the most popular cars on the GTE grid back in the heyday of the series. And, well, perhaps the second most popular when it comes to being referenced is, of course, the BMW M8 GTE, albeit for slightly different reasons. Not for the fact that it's a twin-turbo V8 power plant, but because it's got the Giga grille on the front of the M8 chassis from 2020. But as we do see Glenn Bratton making his way onwards, we are expecting the BMWs to be a bit stronger over race distance as well, as these cars, which previously were seen as very powerful over a single lap, but struggled quite a lot on the brakes later in the race, we do believe that braking package has been upgraded, but the car has still retained its incredible straight line performance. So 2 + 2 = 4 in the case of the BMW M8, and D4 + 4 = 8 there, regards to the fact it's definitely received a big boost. But as he makes his way down, the Ford GTE as well, what we've been gathering, has retained its core characteristics, which is it's very good on medium to high downforce circuits, but there's not long straights. And this is a car where you really need to maximise the usage of its aero. So circuits such as Road Atlanta, it's very powerful, and Watkins Glen. Conversely, here at Road America, you're going to have to turn a lot of the aero down in order to maximise your top speed on the straights, but that means you're actually going against the strengths of the car. Essentially, you're minimising your strengths and maximising your weaknesses in some respects. But that's going to be interesting there, because it does mean the Ford GTE today is perhaps going to be a bit of an uphill battle that Julian Jones is able to get through. But we look forward to seeing how he's going to get on with it. But that's a quick summary of what's happened with regards to the GTE update. Indeed, it's very exciting times, and it's gone down very well with drivers all up and down the spectrum, whether it's esports professionals, real-life racing drivers, all the way through to rookies. Albeit these cars, of course, have retained their base characteristics. They have not changed. In fact, they still have no anti-lock braking system, but they do have traction control, and that's what makes them so challenging versus perhaps GT3s, which are much more forgiving when you get it wrong on the brakes. But with just under 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session, who exactly is looking the quickest at the moment? Well, it's none other than Ryan Otis, who is currently a provisional pole in his number 3. And he's provisional pole by 2.5 tenths out with James Logsdon, who's trying to follow him at the moment and trying to shadow him and see what he can exactly do to find a bit more time. That's a bit cheeky, but to be fair, the best way to learn from the best is to copy the best, as they say, or at least imitate them. And imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as I've always been raised and told. Chad Henson currently the third fastest, with Julian Jones improving just behind. Jones not too far away. And again, these two quite close on pace. 15 thousandths between them, two different cars. And with Julian Jones right now definitely looking to be getting closer and closer. Prime provisional pole at the moment is in the hands of Tom Bryce. Well, he's going to be making it 2 from 2 today, because of the fact that's how it was at Watkins Glen. It all went wrong in the race after his tap to the back of Gabriel Ferreira at the outer loop bend on lap number 4. But right now he'll be hoping that does not happen here with Gabriel Ferreira not in attendance. Not that it could happen with him specifically again. Indeed, there was no malice between the two drivers. It was an innocent bit of contact, and it was deemed a racing incident. But Bryce, of course, seeing it was an opportunity to win thrown away, as we do see him there in the plaid machine. I do believe there's a few references to old TV shows on the car as well. But as he makes his way on out, well, we need to get you an on-board lap with somebody, ladies and gentlemen. We will do that when we do go on to the final flying laps. But Bryce looking the quickest in Pro-Am, ahead of Donald Seapack currently, who's back on the pace to a degree, although he is 1.5 tenths away from Bryce at the moment. He is the Team Bear Poke driver, so you'll be wondering where that pace is. Well, to be fair, the BMW M8, it could be in the balance of the car. The M8 very quick on the straights, but not as good in the technical sectors. The Porsche naturally being mid-engine rear-wheel drive in this instance, and having the better rotation compared to the front mid-engine rear-wheel drive BMW M8, where the engine is mounted behind the front axle and as close as possible to the firewall of the car in order to bring the centre of mass closer to the centre of the car and distribute the weight evenly. But still, a technical side aside, we now make our way back to the front, because as we do, we're going to get an on-board lap with our drivers as Ryan Otis goes even quicker, a 2 minute 0.427. And as we do see Tom Bryce pulling over, well, I think here he's going to give it one last gasp of a run. And here we go for an on-board lap with Tom Bryce as he takes us around the Road America circuit. So making his way down towards turn number 1 as he does so there, braking about 120 meters from corner apex, trail braking in, down to 4th gear, now flat out all the way for the Kinker 2 and getting ready to brake in towards turn number 3. Hard on the anchors he goes here, about 150 meters from corner apex, down to 3rd gear, nice late apex, and now on the throttle using that exit curve there to open up the bend and powering his way onwards towards turn number 5. He'll take a bit of a breather here as he heads underneath the cheese billboard and the land of cheese. And right now, will he cheese it on the brakes? We will see as he brings the car over to the right-hand side and looks for his brake marker, which will be the free board. And that'll be just after he brakes about 100 centimeters from corner apex down to 2nd gear, rolls his way out the left-hander, and now up the hill he goes in towards turn number 6. Underneath the Corvette billboard, braking there before he sees the corner and coming through just a little bit of understeer creeping in there. I think the car's sliding loose, but gets it together as he now comes into turn number 7, clipping the apex curve very nicely. A little lift of the throttle before he chucks chucks it in. Now heading down the hill in towards turn number 8. Looks to his right, braking now about 125 meters at corner apex, down to second gear at the apex, and now out of the corner, over to the left-hand side, and sweeping through the carousel here. It's all about taking the U-shape approach if you can. You want to be nice and tight initially, and now let the car gradually build up on the throttle and power it out. Let the car roll all the way out, and now listening, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to go flat out through the kink. Lovely run there. A tiny hesitation initially, although to be fair, I think understandable given the way the lap's gone so far. But as he now makes his way down towards turn number 12, bringing the car to the left-hand side. The checker flag comes out in this session, braking into Canada corner, 150 metres from apex, all the way down from top gear to second. Now it's in towards the chicane of turns 13 and 13A. Left into right here as he goes unsighted over the rise. You don't want to go too wide, otherwise it unsettles the car. Gets it right, and now on the bump of the road surface, into 14, braking after the road surface transition, down to second gear. Such a late braking zone there, you've got to be brave. And Bryce now heading towards the timeline, but what's this lap going to be for him as he makes hay? Well, as he does so, does he improve there for 9th place? Currently the highest of the Pro-Am drivers by almost 2 tenths. And the answer is no, he does not improve, does Bryce. So, therefore, he's going to stay where he is. Edwin Offred, meanwhile, out there at the moment on his final flying lap, just behind him is Matthew Morhart in terms of lap time, although Morhart is currently, I believe, just up the road from him, and there he is in the Motor liveried Porsche 911. And he comes out the corner. Well, we do see Julian Jones has promoted himself up to 6th as Morhart comes into the pit lane, so he does not improve. Does Edwin Offred improve here in the base Porsche livery colours, indeed the Porsche manufacturer spec there as he heads on the rise. He's got a BMW M8 Plateau in front of him. That's Donald Cepek's car that he's trying to leech off of. And well, Warren jumps up to 12th. Meanwhile, does anybody else improve? And the answer is yes, Edwin Offred improves a 201.012, so he gets a bit closer to best. The two of them separated by 200ths. Glenn Bratton did not get a valid lap on the board in the end, so he'll be starting in 14th place, the last of our participants here. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it is going to be Ryan Otis on his debut, who takes pole position overall in Pro. James Logsdon will join him on that front row. The two of them separate in the end by what was 2.5 tenths, and then Matt Best and Edwin Offred will be on row number 2 just behind. As for your prime pole position, that's going to go into the hands of Jermaine Warren. Congratulations to him. In fact, not Jermaine Warren, my apologies. It's going to be Tom Bryce there in 9th place, getting a bit of names mixed up. And indeed, a bit of an innocent mistake there, but it's going to be a brilliant effort from Tom Bryce, taking that 9th place, and he will be absolutely pleased as punch with that. And he'll be hoping he can do even more now when we do go green flag racing. But we'll wait and see what he's going to be able to do as he gets ready to go. And indeed, we're very excited to see all our drivers get ready to make their way on to that formation lap. Our close qualifying session and the new adjustments to the GT is definitely not dissuading our drivers, although the popularity of the Porsche definitely paramount here. And, well, perhaps over the coming weeks, we will see through the officials and also in this series whether the Porsche perhaps needs just a slight balance performance adjustment to bring it back into shape. Of course, for many a season and many a year, we were always hearing about it with regards to the Corvette, with the Porsche being a second best, but there were also some circuits where there were edge cases, where particularly the Ford GTE and also the BMW were the strongest, and there was always this oddity, if you're ever wondering, one of the most curious bits of balance of performance on iRacing, the BMW M8 being the strongest car in GTE for the best part of 2 years at Laguna Seca, a highly technical circuit with very short straights, but for some reason there, the BMW absolutely dominant compared to the other cars, when you would think it would be a circuit that would favour the likes of, say, the Porsche 911, alternatively, the Ford GTE, but not to be there. But definitely here today, it's going to be Porsches at the top 5 spots, and then the Ford GTE in the hands of Julian Jones. But the circuit does fall silent. Lovely countryside here at Road America, it must be said. And well, as we appreciate the countryside, we now get the chance to appreciate all the drivers getting ready to go green as they make their way onto the grid. And this is how they'll line up for our one and only race in round number 3 of the Middle of the Pack Racing League GTE League for 2026, brought to you on iRacing. Taking pole position then on his debut, Ryan Otis with a brilliant effort there, no doubt about it, the privateer on a 2-minute 0.427. We then do see joining on the front row, almost 3 tenths behind in the end, James Logsdon for Team Bear Pope, the number 42 driver, championship lead battler, of course, and right now hoping he can do even more today, being the current leader as he heads into this round. We then do see Matt Best starting third there for Texas Speed Sim Racing. And his target's going to be to see how far he can come and whether he can put himself between the top 2, if not get ahead of the pair of them. Edwin Offred on his return to the racing, starting 4th there, making his debut in the GTE League. And we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do, given the fact he was only in the end 21 thousandths behind Best. Then we did see a further 2 tenths behind, exactly, Matthew Morhart there in 5th place on his debut, a respectable qualifying lap, just ahead of fellow privateer there of Julian Jones. Then outside the top 6 in 7th is Chad Henson, a further what was 2.5 tenths behind the privateer. Pace is going a little bit backwards rather than forwards. He'll need to try and rectify that when he can. And Shahi's there starting in 8th place there. And the Sri Lankan driver not too far for Henson, so expect a battle between them over the 45 minutes. Starting in 9th place is going to be your prime pole sitter Tom Bryce, making it another class pole position. But he's going to be joined on that 5th rider grid by fellow prime driver Donald Sepet there, the Team Bear Poke driver, putting in a very respectable lap, albeit 1.5 tenths behind. Is that how it's going to translate into the race? Outside your top 10, starting at 11th, it's going to be Mark Senegal, the Canadian driver, Sunday GT Turtles, just ahead of middle of the pack Racing's Jermaine Warren. Right now, Jermaine Warren, of course, the championship leader coming into this round, but if things finish as they stand, he may not be leading going into the next one. And then we will see, starting in 13th place, Taylor Bookout for Team Bear Poke, the last driver who did set a valid time, and with no valid time to his name due to track limit infringements on every qualifying lap, it's going to be Glenn Bratton, starting for the back of the field in 14th place in his BMW M8. But as the field starts to make its way away for the full formation lap here at Road America, indeed, we've got the best part of about 3 to 4 minutes before we do go green flag racing. And with the lap times here being in the region of dead on 2 minutes when we're at full pace. Well, if you haven't had the opportunity to go for your bathroom break quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely recommend you get it in now. Or if you do need to get a top-up liquid refreshment, alternatively get yourself some snacks. Because the next time we come around, it's going to be full pace, no doubt about it. And when these GT machines get going, you will not want to take your eyes away from them for a second. But as everyone comes on through here, of course, strategy could be key today as we ride on board with Matthew Morhart in the number 12. And the privateer right now, he'll be happy to be right in amongst what is the top 10, and particularly in 5th place. So you couldn't ask for a better starting position on your debut in terms of being right in the heart of the pro class. But as he comes on through here, what is the importance of strategy, perhaps you ask? Well, fuel saving can be very powerful here around the Road America circuit. If you can find somebody who's similar pace in front of you and you can sit behind, and you can save several litres of fuel over the course of a stint, and that's going to enable you to be able to essentially gain 2 to 3 seconds in the pit lane, and that could be the difference between you being behind the driver for the entire race and you being ahead after the first stint. So that's always a fault, and we're not expecting any tyre changes in the pit lane. Indeed, we understand that the tyre duration or durability has actually been increased slightly, although the operating window has been narrowed a little bit. These tyres right now can last much longer than they previously could. Indeed, we are into the realm whereby you can essentially run these tyres for the best part of 2 to 3 hours before they need to be changed, which is quite accurate to real life, if my memory serves me correctly, of the GTE machines over the course of their final World Endurance campaign in 2023. And keep in mind, of course, with the GTEs, they did have a competitive tyre spec back then, so the tyre data that iRacing has to work with is actually quite limited compared to modern GT3s, whereby they all run to a single spec tyre. If you didn't know, there was the openness there for different tyre manufacturers in the GTE category when it raced as part of IMSA Plus, also as part of the World Endurance Championship. Also, another thing to note as well is in the pit lane, these cars, they have to put in the fuel first and then the tyres afterwards as an option. They cannot do it simultaneously, unlike a GT3, and that's because it comes from the rules and regulations of the World Endurance Championship, whereby the rules essentially state that you cannot refuel the car unless all 4 tyres are touching the ground. So therefore it means tyres cannot be changed because you need to lift the car up in order to be able to take the tyres off, and that's why it have to be done separately. So that's why nobody will be changing tyres in the pit lane unless they've made the mother of all mistakes and completely scolded and shredded the tyres. But as we do see our drivers heading up towards the kink, indeed the slowest time they'll ever be visiting the kink, well, Ryan Otis right now, we look to the front of him. And as we get on board with the number 3 driver, well, he's going to think to himself, this is absolutely perfect. And that's what he'll want all the way through today, is a clear road in front. He won't want anybody in front of him unless it's somebody who's coming up to lap, because of the simple reason he wants to command victory where he can. But it'll be interesting to see just how well he can command things, because alongside him is James Logsdon, fellow Porsche driver, and the Team Bear Poke driver. He's no stranger to starting second and looking to battle his way for victory, and he does a very good job of it typically. But as they all come along, well, Matt Best just behind there, you can see having gone to the Porsche as well from the BMW, and we look forward to seeing whether the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver can try and make it back-to-back victories here today. Indeed, held on versus Logsdon at Watkins Glen, although to be fair to him, he put in an absolutely brilliant effort. But will he be able to hold on to that win today, or will he find himself seeing it fall out of his hands? Well, for all that and more, as Tom Bryce leads the primes up in the middle of the field. Now we can see him there in the 272 car, the Lazy Boy machine, getting ready to go. They're all absolutely itching to go green, ladies and gentlemen, and it is to Ryan Otis to take us away for 45 minutes of racing action here in round number 3 of the championship at Road America. He leaves it as late as possible, and we are green for 45 minutes of racing action. Good start there from Ryan Otis as they roar the way down towards the opening bend. But as they do, you can see there James Logsdon losing out versus Matt Best, and Best right now on the back of Otis. Oh, this contact! It sends Otis sideways and it collects Logsdon as well. Both of them together. Best there just slightly bipping the back of what was Otis' car, and in the end the consequences are significant, and we'll have to get a replay of that when we can. But as the field makes its way through, well, Best takes the lead unconventionally, and meanwhile further back, oh, the car off into the gravel there. That's going to be Mark Senegal running wide. He gets it wrong at turn number 3, so it's a completely backwards race, but everyone has survived the instance, and therefore we are racing still as we do see the whole field scrambling now down towards turn number 5 for the first time of asking. Jones had a price, but look at this, it's almost 3 wide here as they come down, diagonal 3 wide most definitely, and that's going to be Shahi's ahead over the back of Bryce, and Bryce has come through the field like a missile, but 2 wide further back. Taylor Book out there battling side by side with Donald Sepek. Sepek trying to go around the outside into turn number 6. That may not work, although Sepek's going to switch back to the inside. He goes all in, and in the end Book out finding that BMW right now is definitely being elbows out. He's going to hold on to that 9th place. And goodness me, a dramatic start to this race, no doubt about it. We'll get some replays of what happened shortly as we can see Sepek trying to go around the outside of Bookout. Bookout right now struggling a little bit in terms of pace, but to be fair, having started 13th and made his way to 9th already, well, he's made some great progress there, albeit aided by the free drives going off the road, but getting ahead of Sepek most importantly, and he'll be grateful for that. But back to the front of the field, and Best and Offred still together here as they go through the kink for the first time. Remember, they are going to have maximal fuel loads this time in terms of what they're allowed to run, so they might have to lift and coast through the kink, whereas when they've got a lighter car, they can go through their practically flat out, if not fully flat out at all. Julian Jones, meanwhile, is forward at GTE, will be definitely hoping that he's going to be flat out through there when the fuel starts to come down, because that will be one of the strengths of the Ford. And heading up the hill right now, we'll hold on to that 4th place, but still plenty more time in this race on the number 69 car, dedicated, of course, to the Fast and Furious family there, and particularly to Paul Walker, I do believe, on the door banner. But as he comes on out, oh, a big side there from Matthew Morehart. Going any wider than that, he would have been going around. Able to get traction on the rear tyre just about. That goes to show you how hard he's pushing. And after 1 lap here at Road America, it's Matt Best who leads ahead of Edwin Offred, followed by Matthew Morehart. Then we do have Julian Jones completing that top 4 All Pros. In 5th is your prime leader. He started 9th up to 5th for Tom Bryce ahead of Shahi Zahair, followed by Jermaine Warren, 2nd of the Primes. Behind the Corvette drivers Chad Henson, followed by Taylor Bookout, and Donald Sepek will complete what will be your top 10, albeit he's 3rd of the Primes, with Glenn Bratton behind there in 11th place, just ahead of Ryan Otis, and James Logsdon and Mark Singh will bring out the rear. But notice the fact that whilst we did have that drama on the open lap, everyone has been brought back together quite quickly here. So therefore, for Otis and Logsdon, well, they've got a bit more of a difficult challenge ahead of them now, which they need to pick their way through the field. It will effectively be a last to first change for these guys if they want to win this one. But meanwhile, Chad Henson looking up the inside here in towards turn number 5 versus Warren, goes all in, and in the end he's going to get that done quite nicely there. And well, Jermaine Warren gives him the space, plenty of room to operate, and they will swap the place on around as Warren now goes defensive versus Bookout. Bookout trying to find a way through in turn. We're going up towards the middle sector, and at this point, well, the battling will calm down for a brief moment. And James Logsdon will know that, but I think he's going to use Ryan Otis as a little bit of a battering ram here, proverbially speaking, to see if he can find a way through all the cars in front, because Otis, the pole sitter, well, the theory would be he's going to be the fastest driver, at least in the early stages of the race, or at certain points, and therefore be able to get through the field. So Logsdon will need to latch onto the back of the number 3 and use essentially as a bit of a door jammer, whereby every time Otis makes a move, then Logsdon will need to be there as well to capitalise. The first driver they need to pass is Glenn Bratton as they make the way through the kink. We look back from the rear of Bratton's BMW M8, the 289, and well, there you can see the Porsche. It's close, but if everyone having the draft to one another, he's going to get closer and closer, and this he's going to go for it on the brakes in towards Canada Bend. Logsdon looks up the inside as well. He tries to get the door back open for himself, but he can't quite do it there, and therefore Otis already getting clear of one driver as Logsdon's got to spend a bit more time. And that's what I mean there. Otis is the first to try and pick them off, and Bratton playing it smart, to be fair to him. A bit of driving in the light yellowy-green machine, but it goes a bit defensive there in towards turn 14. And now Logsdon's going to out-drag him on the run will start finish straight. But the problem is, when you're up against the BMW, well, that BMW is not going to be easy to pass, even in a Porsche, which statistically speaking can be the quickest of the GTs if you take all the wing off of it. But understandably right now they'll want the wing on that car in order to be able to nail some of the corners. But looking up the inside, and well, Logsdon's going to go for it into turn number 1, late on the brakes, and in the end Bratton gives him the space, and that's a place made by James Logsdon, but taking a little bit longer there, and the change has been made. So Logsdon up to 12th, Bratton now down to 13th place, and Mark Senegal a bit further back here in 14th, carrying on. But to the front of the field, your top four still trying to pull away here, but they're playing it safe at the moment. Best and Offray, Mulhart and Jones together, and then they do have a 4-second gap that's starting to grow to 5th place driver of Tom Bryce. Here is Bryce right now, but look behind, you can see there, book out the inside of Warren, and me or Donald Seepet, they're taking up some dust as Ryan Otis goes up the inside, and I think Donald Seepet, they're deciding to play it safe as Otis takes some grass with him. Oh, that almost went wide of the round for Glenn Bratton. Touch the grass there, and it goes very wrong very quickly. Remember, these GTE machines, they are pushing the best part of 550 brake horsepower compared to the what is rated 500 or so brake horsepower of the modern GT3. They are a little bit more powerful, and also they do have more tightly controlled aerodynamics on these cars, although they do have quite a bit of aero, and that's what enables them to attack the laps even quicker, the combination of engine power plus also the aerodynamics on them. But as these drivers make the way around, we need to give you a bit of a recap of what exactly happened at the start, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're going to take a trip back in time and see exactly what went wrong in towards turn number 1. Now, these replays, courtesy of Toro Mayoga, of course, is brilliant software, enables us to be able to bring you all the replay action from an iRacing replay file. And as our drivers went green, well, it was a good start there for Ryan Otis, but Matt Best is the driver we need to keep an eye on here, and I suspect, look how close he was when they went green. Now, he really sees the advantage there, but under braking into turn number 1, I suspect it's going to be a slight error on the brakes. It was. You can see the jinking of his car, and unfortunately, Ryan Otis being pushed forward, and James Logsdon on the outside just had nowhere to go. But Mark Senegal, he had a brilliant start as well, but it all went a bit wrong here under braking. Went close to the back of Shahid Zahair, locked up the front right brake, and then lifted off of it to make sure the car did not fully lock and go into the back of the Sri Lankan driver, and in the end it just went straight on there and avoided the arriving driver racing privateer and sacrificed his own race for it. This is what it looked like on board from what was Matt Best's perspective as we went green flag racing, and again, I think it was completely an innocent mistake here. Just listening and you'll hear the bump. And then, not quite hear it, but you could definitely see it. And I think that's just simply the concertina effect there. And unfortunately, Best being too close to be able to judge the braking zone. And I wouldn't be surprised if that may go to the stewards afterwards. A bit unfortunate, but I'm sure he'll agree. It's just one of those things that has happened in reality. But with that, what else has happened on the open lap? Not too much else, to be fair. It's been mostly a clean open lap. We had this for Shahid Zahair in the second lap as he made his way down towards turn number 1. He was chasing after Tom Bryce at the time. He made his way in towards the opening right-hander. Well, Bryce went a bit wide. Zahair went even wider. I think everyone decided to copy what the driver in front was doing. That enabled there what was Jermaine Warren to get close, but wasn't able to quite find that move. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do, well, there's still plenty of time on the clock. There's still plenty of action to come. And Matt Best still leading at the moment. Hold up a second. We've lost somebody from this lead group, and that is Julian Jones. Now, we haven't quite got the footage as to what's exactly happened to Jones, but we can surmise there's been an error from him. He dropped backwards and Bryce is up into 4th place. So Jones having a bit of an off. That's not the way anybody wanted to go, particularly if you're a fan of Julian Jones at MOP Racing. Well, now he's a bit further down the order, but I suspect he's going to be trying to put even more effort in to make up the lost ground. James Logsdon still chasing after Ryan Otis, but you can see the gap between the two of them has opened up to a degree. It's now up to the best part there for almost a second, and we can confirm it was on lap number 4, a major, well, in fact, lap number 3, it was a major off-track for Julian Jones, and therefore it cost him the best part of 6 seconds, so he's run wide, and therefore it has brought him down the order. Although we don't know where it's happened on the lap, we do know that Jones has had a bit of a disappearing act, and therefore it's made an error. But Donald Seepek, he's on the back here of Jermaine Warren. And as they battle for second place in Brian, well, here comes Seepek looking up the inside of the Corvette driver. And I can definitely tell you one thing, that Corvette is no longer looking anywhere near as quick as it used to. So I think the Corvette's pace has actually been turned down a little bit, and it has been turned into the strategic car, which, to be fair, it was known for that in 2022 and 2023, where Pratt & Miller Motorsport had one of the best driver packages on the grid. Indeed, it was the car that you weren't necessarily going to be taking pole position, although it did take quite a few pole positions. Over the race, it was the car that was able to deliver some incredible drives, including, of course, taking the final 24 hours of Daytona win in 2023. But as they make the way on through, and right now you can see a bit of a scramble further behind. Mark Single looking up the inside of Shahid Zahair. Not quite able to find it there. The pro and driver trying to nip at was the pro driver. They stay as they were, but this battling definitely to be expected. And as we said earlier, all these drivers competing for the same pool of points. But the understanding is the fact that you gain bonus points for the podium in the pro class, but not for the pros. Who, of course, are meant to be the best of the best out there, and therefore they don't need bonus points. All they need is overall victory, of which Matt Best is still trying to power towards it. Now, in terms of the pit window, when can we expect drivers to come into the pit lane? Well, not quite for some time. We do know the pit window in these sprint races is quite wide. Our drivers can normally go to the best part of approximately 10 minutes remaining in the race before they definitely do need to pit and the fuel tank starts to scream, "I'm running on fumes." So therefore we can expect that today. And Matt Best right now definitely keeping an off and more hot with him as the top three of Porsches. And then we've got a 6.5-second gap back to Tom Bryce, prime leader at the moment. Very much in control of proceedings here at this time. Now, this could all be a ruse as they make the one through because Julian Jones is staying with him just about. And remember, he's on a bit of a recovery drive here, but Jones's game now will be to see him get close to Bryce. And if he feels though he can pass him, get it done. If not, try and fuel save off of him. And he's got a bit of a problem growing behind because here comes Ryan Otis. Look at a blast already, and Jones having a terrible run out the final corner to the Falkland Islands driver. And here comes Otis looking up the inside. And well, I think this is going to be battle on the brakes, which that Porsche will win. As new fastest lap today, so 201.164 for James Logsdon behind. And when Logsdon can't find his way through, Otis once again clears the driver. Logsdon's made to wait a little bit longer. Jermaine Warren, Chad Henson side by side here. Warren up the inside of the Porsche driver. The Corvette carrying on. And coming down the hill right now, we can see there Shahid there looking one way then the other, as is none other than Don Cepek, but neither driver in the BMW able to find a way through. But this is definitely getting closer and closer between these guys as we ride aboard here with Zahir, right in the thick of what is a 7-car pack. And we're pulling out the draft a little bit, trying to sight up his run towards turn number 5. Also, it means by falling back a little bit, he gives himself a bit more breathing room to work with. Oh, goodness me, that's a dive up the inside of Mark Senegal. Surprise stage left there from the Sunny GT Turtles Dre. Takes one, he takes two. What a move there from Mark Senegal as they head up the hill. And as they do come into our sight once again, well, Mark Senegal side by side here with Cepek. He's going to get that done. That's an absolute brilliant. It's bold, it's brash, but it's what we know him for. And Mark Senegal taking that place. As meanwhile, we're going to change a leader as well. Edwin Offre is now your leader overall. Header Matt Best and Matthew Morehart still with them. We'll get a replay of that shortly. But Mark Senegal there going for the double and really getting it. Well, I don't know if he realised that the Christmas sales are well over, but he's giving himself a late Christmas present. And what a move from this man in the 227s. He now goes chasing after Chad Henson and Jermaine Warren. And I think in the end, he just decided with everyone else is going to play it safe, I'm going to risk it a little bit. Well, sometimes that's what you've got to do. As they roll the way through the Kings. Meanwhile, Tom Bryce under pressure here from Ryan Otis. He goes defensive, does Bryce. He wants to try and hold on to that position, but Otis will go round the outside and with Canada Ben. James Logsdon trying to do the same here. Logsdon now getting the picture, which is if he can come through as well, then it's going to help him out massively, and does that lovely move from the pair of pro drivers. The prime leader not fighting it too hard, to be fair. He could have perhaps run them out a little bit wider if he wanted to, but I think his game plan was to make it difficult, but not make it impossible, because at the end of the day, well, if he beats his rivals in the prime class, and that in itself will be worth extra points. But understand, be here, the more points you can take overall, the better. But meanwhile, change of lead. Matt Betts back ahead of Edwin Offrout. I wonder if they're doing a swap back and forth there on the straights to save some fuel and tyre life. But meanwhile, this is definitely not going to be a casual swap back and forth, as Bryce outruns Jones to the braking zone for turn number 1. Just behind, Chad Henson back up the inside of Jermaine Warren. So they swapped it around on the previous lap. I think these guys are fighting, to be fair. This goes to show you how close these cars are on strategy right now and pace. Best versing off where Edwin Offred this time, all over the back of Best, the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver, hoping he doesn't get biffed on the backside. And Offred there staying with him as Matthew Morehart also gives the run. Meanwhile, Ryan Otis further back, or James Logsdon there, 4th and 5th, with Bryce Jones and Bookout just a bit further back. And then we do have that 4-second gap emerging here to the big scramble. Chad Henson goes defensive in towards turn number 5, but look at Mark Senegal. He's going to pick another one off. He loves it at turn number 5. He gets to the inside in that Porsche, and our days on the inside of turn number 6, and Jermaine wants to go try and hold it around the outside. That's brave, and that's not going to work there because he runs right onto the grass. Now here comes Lord Cepek. Can he get on through as well? He does, and we can see there Jermaine Warren now trying to hold off Shahi Zahir. Zahir too wide when coming down towards turn number 8. Looks one way then the other, but that's not going to work, and they stay as they were. The flames spit out the side of the car, and car sideways. Mark Senegal goes round again. I don't believe it. That's the second time now he's been in the gravel trap. He's almost made me lose my words. And right now, as he brings himself back up to speed after what's been an absolutely heroic effort, he's now got to go for what is the trilogy part of it. He's had the sequel. Now he's got the trilogy trying to carve his way through the field. And well, can he do it a third time here? We'll have to wait to see. Indeed, that's not the way you want your opening 14 minutes of the race to go. But for him, that's definitely the way it's gone. And now he's got even more effort to put ahead of him. him. But as Matt Best comes towards the end of lap number 7, well, definitely that's a bit of a risky one right there. That's going to cost him an instant point. He's only got 10 of those to play with, and with the contact he had to the back of Otis's car, I suspect he's going to be on at 6 or 7 instant points at the moment, out of 10, and therefore a drive-through penalty is not too far away. So he's going to have to tighten up those track limits, as we do see Edwin Onofre getting closer and closer, and Onofre just rides his rear bumper there, does not make the move, does not want to get ahead. What he wants to do is put some mental pressure on instead, as Warhat follows these guys. So the top 3 definitely now in a bit of a postcode of their own. New fastest lap of the race, a 2 minute 01.137 for Ryan Otis. He's now up in the ante a little bit, with James Logsdon still following him, but he wants to try and catch up. They've got an 8-second gap to close down to the leaders. That's not impossible to close down given the pace that these two are showing, but they are going to go some. They're going to need to start chiseling away around 2 to 3 tenths a lap if the leaders do not battle, and if they can do that, they may be of an attacking distance come the final 5 minutes of the race. Meanwhile, as Tom Bryce right now looks to battle with Julian Jones. Jones looking to the outside, the Ford GT driver waiting. A bit further back, Jermaine Warren. He's still all over the back of what is none other than Shahi Zahair. Albeit Glenn Bratton there with him, and Warren this time not able to find a move, even though he takes a cautious peek to the inside. It is purely a peek. It's a little bit of a tease, nothing more than that, and he's not going to poke and probe. And Glenn Bratton will just wait and watch and listen. But in terms of some changes that are played out, well, what exactly happened to Edwin Onofre to take the lead off of Matt Best back on lap number 5? We're going to replay of that, plus some other items, ladies and gentlemen, as we do take a trip back in time. So this was Edwin Onofre initially chasing after Best as they made the way up the rise through turn 13 into 14. And as they did, I think Best here is going to briefly lose connectivity and reappear. So that was not an overtake on the road. We do apologise for the confusion there. But what was an overtake, we believe, was in the runs turn number 1 on lap number 6. In fact, no, this was in the exit of turn 5. So they'd gone side by side initially. Best had gone a little bit deep there, and then Onofre was on the inside in towards the left-hander of 6. Too wide all the way through, but did Best come back there into 7? The answer is he tried to, but then Onofre was able to close the door very gradually. So that's how their battle started, and then we did see the switch back and forth between them later on. We also had this big month Mark Senegal on lap number 7. Where it all went very, very wrong for him, and after getting ahead of the quartet behind him, went onto the brakes in towards turn number 8, carried too much speed, the rear of the car said no. Ooh, and that was a very big near miss there from Jermaine Warren, literally missing Senegal's car by about 10 millimetres, and well, in the end, Senegal dropping all the way to the back of the field. So a frustrating month for him, but still more work to be done for the 227 driver as we make our way back to your live racing. As we do, well, there's still plenty more action to come. Indeed, this race has been absolutely thrilling. Watkins Glen, the first 15 minutes was absolutely nail-biting, and it calmed down strategically. Here today, we are starting to see the field split into what is multiple different groups. And I said split and spread there simultaneously into a split. So, well, yeah, that's definitely some new vocabulary we add into the commentary booth for this season. But as we come back to the leaders, we can see they seem to now settled into this rhythmical order. But meanwhile, Tom Bryce finds himself in an unfavourable situation. Now, we have had Glenn Bratton come into the pit lane quite recently with a technical issue on the car. So I think there's been a retirement due to an issue with his BMW M8. That's unfortunate there. The reliability of the German mark not proving itself today. But meanwhile, he's trying to come on through. We've had a bit of a change further back. This is Jermaine Warren being passed by Shahi Zahair. Zahair finally getting back ahead. These two constantly battling back and forth. We saw it earlier on, and they're fighting over 11th place. It's unfortunate we have lost the driver the best part of ways a third of the way into this race. Got to feel for Glenn because he definitely was looking good in this battle, but still, there's going to be plenty more opportunities for him as back to the lead we come. And all that lead battle, you can definitely see Moorhart playing a very different strategy here compared to the top two. As we look back from the rear of your leader from Texas Speed Sim Racing, and Matt Best right now, definitely, I think, worrying about Onofre, the pressure that's being mounted, but also that Onofre is naturally saving fuel. And you may remember, of course, when our LMP3 champion from 2024 was not winning races outright in the lovely red livery machine with that infamous win, of course, at Imola, and what a celebrated one for the Tifosi, as Best disappears and rematerialises from the ether. Well, decides to back off there. So Best called in on down. That must be a slowdown penalty for track limits, but Best is definitely going slowly. It's Edwin Onofre gets ahead. So Best has either got a problem or he's burnt a slowdown there. Either way, he's lost a lot of time. And Matthew Moorhart now coming on through. So Best struggling on. These two still together, but that's a change and a surprise one at that. As meanwhile, speaking of surprises, here's a move from Julian Jones on Bryce again, trying to go around the outside for 6th place, but Tom Bryce right now still holding on here, and you can see Taylor Book out behind, just queuing, awaited here. And I think he's probably saying to these drivers at the moment, do you mind getting a room at some point? but Best falling down the order. Best has got a problem with that car. That Porsche is not going as quick as it used to. And I'll tell you one thing, that is not a slowdown penalty, because if it was, he would have burnt it ages ago, getting the amount of slowing down he's done. So he dropped that back to 5th. I wonder if Best will be in at the end of this lap, or whether they can find a way to fix the issue in the car whilst he's out on circuit. But here's Jones up the inside of Bryce, looking for it in towards turn number 5. He's going to continue the theme in towards 6 here. Side by side they go. And in the end, Jones will get ahead there. Does he get it stopped? He does. And Bryce falls back into 7th with Taylor Bookout right behind. And right now, the Porsche driver there, or thereabouts, but Bookout still trying to find a way in as we ride on board the dashboard of your 77 from Team Bear Pope. Now, I think Bookout already has been the most patient driver, as Glenn Bratton is back in the pit lane. So they have been able to repair the issue with the car, which is great for the privateer driver, but it does put him a lap down at 289. But still, better to be out there scoring some points rather than not finishing at all. And that's what we love to see. And remember, if a driver finishes the race within 5 laps of the leader, or 5 laps of the winner, we should say, they will be classified. So that's all he's got to do to guarantee he gets some points from today, is make sure he finishes now within 5 laps of Edwin Offray, which I think, unless he has any more technical issues or a major incident, he should be fine to do. But as we stay on board with the battle for 6th place between our trio here of Jones, Bryce and Bookout, well, what we can tell you is that Taylor Bookout's play here is really just to play it calm, and I think save some fuel and save some tyre life behind the guys in front. We do know he's a relatively quick driver for Team Bear Pope, although he hasn't had his time to shine really so far. As meanwhile, here in my ear, into the pits has come Ryan Otis, James Logsdon and Matt Best. They are all into the pit lane. The only other thing I can think of is perhaps that Best has run out of fuel, although I don't think that would make much sense unless we suddenly see all the cars that have gone an extra lap come in. But either way, we are seeing a splitting of the race here. Otis is in after 20 minutes. Logsdon the same, Best as well. I think Logsdon's strategy is to do whatever Ryan Otis does. Best, meanwhile, well, they're going to have to try and fix the issue on that car whilst it's in the pit lane. If they can fix it, well, then we'll see him back to his best, hopefully, and going on the attack. No pun intended with his surname there. But Edwin Offray and Matthew Orhart, well, if everyone's running out of fuel, these guys are not showing any signs of running out of steam. Though Morhart has really been passive in this race, and I suspect he's going to be the black horse of this one, or the dark horse we should say, or the black sheep of it, whereby he will definitely be trying to leapfrog an Offray and also effectively what will be best until his issues on strategy. He'll be trying to go for what will be the undercutting of fuel. And as he comes down towards turn number 8, that was quite an aggressive exit from 7. I think he's getting ready to try and make an overtake here. As meanwhile, that is Tom Bryce back up the inside of Julian Jones. Well, their battle has not ended. We thought Bryce had finally got clear. Not quite so, and Jones now going to go back on the attack once again as we ride on board in the very cramped Ford GTE cockpit. Indeed, perhaps one of the most difficult cockpits of cars out there, but Jones right now close or thereabout as he heads his way in towards the carousel. And he runs it a little bit deep there, and I think the idea is to try and V off turn 9, so that way he gets a really good run out of turn number 10, gets the slingshot out the corner. But the problem is that understeer from the dirty area of the car in front has just forced him slightly wider than he would like, and he can't be as aggressive on that throttle pedal. And indeed, these cars, they do have quite a bit of aero, so therefore dirtier is a theme, but they can run so close to each other, and in the draft as well, they pick up such a slipstream. And going down towards, and now Canada Bend, well, Jones thought about it once, then realised he'd be too far back, and it would be an adventurous lunge. But he doesn't decide to go for an adventure, as Otis, Logsdon and Best have all come out the pit lane. They have now taken their mandated pit stop, and well, Best just behind there. And I think the issue on Best's car has been resolved. So he's now back with these drivers here. And the only other thing I can imagine that perhaps he's done out of fairness is he's given the places back to these drivers. It's a bit of an unconventional way of doing it, but perhaps what he's realised is if he gives the places back to Otis and Logsdon, of course, I think he feels as though that he's responsible for the turn 1 incident on the open lap. Well, he's then been able to tap onto the back of them and pit with them. So actually quite smart here from Matt Best. He's been a gentleman racer, but he's also been quite intelligent on the fact he's given the places back, and he's really reset their race back to how it was at the very start, minus the fact they're not in the lead, unless, of course, strategy plays out that way. So great work there for Matt Best to do that, and that is some of the smartest driving I have seen from a driver who knows that perhaps he's done wrong and therefore wants to rectify it without damaging his race too much. So therefore he's back in the fight with these guys, and we'll see where that puts him. Mark Senegal's in, and the Sunday GT Turtles driver parking up there. Not a happy Turtle after what happened on the opening at 20 minutes or so of the race. But still, more time out there. We'll see what he can do. As an Offray and Morhart together right now, coming on down the hill in towards turn number 8. Still together, Matthew Morhart right now. He is really building up something special as Offray goes a little bit deep. Here comes Morhart looking up the inside. He only needs one shot. And Matthew Morhart pulls the trigger and lands a mark on the target because he absolutely steals away the lead for Edwin Offray. And it was a tiny error for an Offray coming out to turn number 8. But small errors at that corner are amplified massively. It's such a tricky corner to get right. And he'll take that. Julian Jones, meanwhile, the same corner's gone wide. And Jones, after battling his way with Tom Bryce into effective third on the road, and what was 5th, we believe, on strategy. Well, Jones now has dropped all the way back to 5th place on the road with Donald Sepek right behind him. Some mistakes have started to creep in here, and I think it might be tyres just feeling a little bit knackered compared to how they were in the early stages. But of course, these tyres have still got plenty of life in them, but they evolve over time. You start to run out of a little bit of peak grip as you go onwards, and you have to gradually adjust your driving style to complement the tyre. But Jones making one mistake. He wants to rinse and repeat that once again. Taylor Bookout, meanwhile, getting clear of him and ahead. But Tom Bryce has been bought a 1.5 second window from the pair of pro drivers in that 3rd place, and he's going to try and make the most of it. As they come on through, well, we're going to take a quick look back at what exactly happened there for Jones, and here is a replay to explain. So this was Julian Jones at the time ahead of Bryson Bookout in 3rd place. Went into that braking zone in the number 69 car, and as he did so, similar mistake to Mark Senegal, and in fact, I think the rear locking up now, I suspect he's come down the gearbox too aggressively under braking, and that's caused the rear tyres to overspin, and therefore it's amplified the engine braking effect, and it's caused the car to have that rear axle lock. Much like what we had for Senegal, and we've seen it in previous rounds as well. So a small mistake there for Julian Jones, but a big one. And at the same time, we had this for Taylor Bookout. And this was Bookout chasing after Bryce, and I think this is how the gap has opened up. He tried to carry all the speed for the carousel. That car was understeering wider, and in the end found the grass, but was able to bring himself back on, but not without picking up some dirt on his tyres, and therefore he had to lift off through the kink. And of course, we did have this move for the overall lead from Matthew Morhart on Edwin Offrey, and Offrey making a small mistake here, just running slightly wide into the gravel trap, and then Morhart deciding he got the run. It was time to get the job done, and it was as smooth as silk for him. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to your live racing. As we do come on back, well, still plenty of time left in this one. Just under 20 minutes plus the final lap to go. Who's pitted, who's not? Well, nobody else has made a pit stop recently, we believe. James Logsdon still glued to the back of Ryan Otis, but now you can see that they've made their way through other drivers. They are now into clear track, and that's where Logsdon thrives, just sitting behind Otis. It's something he can do very well. It just be within 2 to 4 tenths of another driver and constantly there. It's not easy to follow another car, where it's in GTE, GT3, you name it, because firstly, the dirty air, but also secondly, as a driver, you no longer have, as we do ride on board, to really show you what it looks like, albeit from a slightly off-centre to the other side of the car perspective with a roll cage camera here. The problem is when you're running behind another car at this distance, around half a second through the carousel, keep in mind the concertina effect, which means half a second looks different compared from corner to corner and straight to straight. When you're this far back, it's fine. You can see your turning points. But as you start to get closer in those heavy braking zones, what you end up doing essentially is you reduce your forward visibility and you lose perhaps vision of certain brake markers. So you have to drive from memory, and you have to drive on the basis of gauging, right, I'm X distance from the car in front, therefore I need to pull this braking zone back, or alternatively I need to turn in slightly earlier to offset the dirty air. It is a particular way of driving, and Logsdon is one of the kings of it in being able to follow cars so closely as he runs wide out of 13. A little bit too aggressive there, but to be fair, constantly making those micro adjustments, he's driving on the limit. But on the limit of the pit stop right now, Tom Bryce, Bookout, also their Sepek and Zahair. They're all coming on in. So long procession of cars. That is going to promote Otis Logsdon and Best on through. And Rhino's has done a little bit of a bob and weave down the start finish straight here. And I think he realised that Logsdon's trying to follow him closely and really put some pressure on. And Otis saying to him, catch me if you can. But right now, I think it's going to be more about can they catch the leaders here over the time remaining. They are currently 46.5 seconds off of the leaders. But remember, the pit end-to-end time for these drivers was the best part of 54 seconds. So therefore, we are expecting them to be a lot closer in reality. And their pace is very similar to that of the leaders at this time. So it will be close. We believe that Matthew Morhart theoretically is going to be a leader after all the pit stops are done, with Edwin Offred behind him. But then it will be how far back will Otis Logsdon and Best be. We're expecting about 4 seconds at this point, and that will lead to quite an interesting finale in this race, the final sprint of the US Cup part of the season, where we do head, of course, to our 4th round at Sebring, where it is going to be an endurance round or a feature length round. Plenty more racing there. But we come back to Taylor Bookout, leaving the pit lane, still behind Chad Henson. And Tom Bryce says there's been no change to these drivers. Donald Sepek also a bit further back. Now he's got Shahi Zahair closing in the battle of the BMWs, and Jermaine Warren's with them. And Warren has lost out quite a bit with regards to the pit stops. He's fallen back even further. As meanwhile, into the pit lane from the lead is Matthew Morhart, and Edwin Offrey comes with him. So we expect Julian Jones will be coming in shortly, as Jones makes his way onwards. Will be a bit further back after his excursion, and also the fact he's been further down the order by default. Jones here right now to wait and see where he fits back into the picture in his Ford GT, but rolling his way on out. Definitely a bit of a controversial car, this one, in real life with regards to whether it was part of a homologation or whether it had to have special exceptions. Indeed, some of these cars did have to have special exceptions from the FIA World Governing Body to be able to race, because they were meant to be based on homologated machinery. But as Edwin Offray parks up, and so does Morhart. Well, right now, the cars are not up on the jacks. That's only fuel going in. Here is Ryan Otis, meanwhile. So he makes his way through the final corner. He's going to be up into third at least, as Morhart now leaves the pit lane, and Offray right behind. So they're still very close, and literally nothing between them on pit length time. Ryan Otis still making his way down the start-finish straight. He's about, I would say, half a straight away at the moment. So as he gets ready to go into the opening corner, our leaders have already made their way through it. So that gap in the end is not 4 seconds. It's bigger than that. It's so big, it's huge. It's 8 seconds at the moment, and therefore Morhart and Offray have actually opened up time rather than lost time as a result. So their pace has been equal, if not better, than third through to fifth, and therefore we could be seeing a fight right now for the final spot of the podium, although Best is falling away for it little by little. So it could be between Otis and Logsdon for that final podium spot, and Morhart and Offray will be fighting over first and second. Chad Henson side by side here with Tom Bryce, looking up the inside in towards turn number 3. They give each other racing room and respect. Coming back on there does Bryce, trying to get himself back on the road. Henson pulls slightly into the centre to give him the space to operate. Albeit I think they're also just coming off that exit curve. The car slightly sideways there for Bryce. But as we do see the plaid machine coming down, defending to the inside. Well, what will Henson do? Will he go for the switchback here? He is going to try it and see if he can get Bryce to outbrake himself. But Bryce there knowing exactly how far he needs to go. Henson now looking up the hill in towards turn number 6. Going all in, he's going to try it here. Bryce gives him the racing room, stays on the road, but Chad Henson now to the outside of turn number 7. Bryce is still with him, but Henson says, right, I'm chopping off your nose, and he gets it done there, and up in the 6th place goes Henson, 6th overall in class. Now here's Julian Jones, he's looking for his way in as we ride on board the dashboard here of the number 69 Ford GT, and coming out in towards the carousel here. This is where the car should feel very comfortable as he rolls his way on around through the bend, albeit run a bit deep there. In fact, we're really getting caught out. Some understeer creeping in. I think that front left tyre for Jones right now is definitely wounded a little bit from some offs earlier on and how hard he's had to push this car. And well, that was one of the weaknesses as well of the Ford GT, and the fact that it can lean very heavily into its tyres on medium to high speed bends, as a result of being able to carry so much speed. But Jones here right now, well, close as he needs to be, 3 tenths behind, and it's a further 6 to Bryce, it's a further 6 to Henson, I should say. These guys are still fighting over the 6th place all the way to him, but Jones getting a much better exit out of Canada corner. I suspect this may come on the start finish straight here. We're going to stay on board for a little bit longer as they make the way towards the end of lap number 15 on to a 16th tour. They get ready to go, and what's Jones going to be able to do here? 4 tenths is the gap coming out the corner, closing little by little. In fact, 3 tenths, I should correct myself. Now it's going to be 2 as they get halfway down the straight, crossing the timeline. Will he go for it into turn number 1? I think he's got to feel it's coming here. He gets closer and closer and closer, and here we go. The car in front says, please stand by. Well, we're not standing by anymore as it's going to be a move up the inside from Jones, and he sweeps his way in. Bryce doesn't fight it too hard. I think he'll be looking for the comeback here down towards turn number 3, and he does so. But can Jones beat him on the brakes? The answer is yes. So Jones takes that, and they'll be hoping the distant tyre Chad Henson will keep him safe in the Porsche. Bryce all the way. You can see them in the rear of the picture. There's Don Seepet, the 2nd place prime drive, trying to catch up to Bryce, and Shahi's ahead a bit further back with Jermaine Warren in tow as well. So we could yet see a 6-way fight for 6th place brew up here, depending on how it all goes between the 2 packs of 3. But indeed, we'll have to see whether the Menage a Trois doubles itself. And that's further back Mark Senegal, currently lapping highly consistently, and in fact lapping faster than many a driver in front of him. But the problem is he's got to overhaul a 6.5 second gap, which in 13 minutes remaining at the pace he's running, he's gained about 4 tenths a lap. It's not going to be enough. He's going to need to be taking at least 7 to 8 tenths a lap, but I think that's going to be pushing it for the prime driver. So he's going to have to hope that everyone in front of him starts to battle. Otherwise 12th place and 4th in prime, maybe the furthest he goes here today. As we come back to your lead as well, we don't, because that's an off track for turn number 8, and that's Don Seepet recovering there. The gravel trap at turn number 8 gobbles up another car, and well, Seepet going wide, and that is going to cost him significantly. That puts him out to 2nd in Pro-Am, puts him down to 3rd in class on length overall. Jermaine Warren sneaks on through there as we see him go through the right camera shot, but Don Seepet making an innocent mistake, but a very costly one. As we were going to say, here are your leaders meanwhile. 12 minutes to go. They go on to lap number 17, and that does mean we're going to see 6 more laps including this one before we see that checker flag. And Edwin Offray right now absolutely glued to the back of the number 12. But understandably, I think his game plan at this point is going to be simply stay with him and only look for a move on Matthew Morhart on that final lap, because there's no value in really fighting right now. They will just cost each other time. But speaking of time being gained, well, that is half a second being gained by Ryan Otis. It may not be over yet, because if our leaders do start to fight, I would imagine that number 3 will be getting closer and closer very quickly. He needs more time to do this. He really needs to be gaining a second lap at the moment, but he needs the leaders to battle each other. But Edwin Offred, I think, is cognizant of this, and Morhart might be wondering what's going on, but we do know Onofre really knows how to proverbially read the racetrack. We would say read the room, but we'll change it to read the racetrack. Onofre is already keeping an eye on the times, not just of the driver in front and his own times, but he's also thinking of the times of the drivers behind him and what exactly is going on. And that's why sometimes you will see him sit behind the driver for pretty much the whole race in the battle for the win, only then to go for it on the final couple of laps, because he knows then he has sealed the deal and made that battle just between him and the leader, rather than expanded it into a 3, 4 or even 5-way fight, which it could potentially be if they were to battle. Meanwhile, speaking of battling, Shahi Zahir comes in very late into turn number 5. He gets ahead of Jermaine Warren. We only see the tail end of that. We'll get a replay of that shortly, plus what happens to Donald Sepek in the build-up to this. And Sepek has now got onto the back of this group once again. So whilst he has lost places, he hasn't lost out on the ability to try and get those places back, as we take a quick trip back in time, ladies and gentlemen. So this initially was the mistake from Donald Sepek a lap before, coming down in towards turn number 8. Went onto the brakes here, and as he did so, carried a lot of speed, went a bit wide of apex, and the car understeered wide there. I think he carried too much speed, but he got the braking and the gear change right, so then he decides, you know what, I'm just going to have to open the car steering wheel up and let it roll deep, otherwise this car is not going to brake it, and it is going to go around on corner exit instead. So good reactions there for Donald Sepek to see what was coming and react accordingly. And then we did have, what was this, from Jermaine Warren versus Shahi Zahir once again, and this was on the starter turn. The start of turn number 17 of the circuit, or what was another lap, as they came into that braking zone, where was Jermaine Warren up the inside, and the 2-on-4 getting that place over him, and then coming down towards turn number 3, couldn't quite get it, so it was down into turn number 5 instead that Shahi Zahir went for it. And this goes to show you the fact the brakes on this BMW have been upgraded, because Warren went defensive once, he went defensive twice. I think both drivers had a bit of conversation there, and Zahir went all the way around the outside in the end, and I think Warren actually gave that place up a little bit there. I think he felt as though he double moved under was entry into the corner, because you saw him go to the inside and then come back out. I think he knee-jerk reacted there and let Zahir take that one, and had a little bit of lock-up on his front left brake as a result. But I think there Warren respecting the fact that in reality perhaps he shouldn't have been as cheeky as he was there, so letting it go to Zahir at least for that moment as we make our way back to your live racing. And as we do so, great respectful racing being shown between all these drivers. Of course, many of these drivers have known each other for years of racing, so they really have built up that respect and also that knowledge of how one another races. Of course, it's always going to get a little bit cheeky and elbows out every so often. It wouldn't be the Middle of the Pack Racing League if we didn't see it, but they do know where the lines are drawn, to be fair, and that's what brings drivers back on an annual basis to each and every season. As Edwin Offred makes his way out of where's the carousel, he has taken that lead off with Matthew Morhart. We have had that happen off camera. We do apologise for missing that, but I suspect it's not over yet, because Morhart now trying to come back at him. But look at the gap to Ryan Otis. In fact, with the fight in between these two, that gap has been halved. That's 4 seconds to Ryan Otis. I don't believe it. And well, whatever battle they did have, it was intense. And right now, well, it's not over, as Morhart has taken that place back off Onofre, and Onofre let it go into Canada Bend, as you just saw. But Otis and Logsdon together, and Best is 3.5 seconds behind. So suddenly, we could certainly have what is a 4-way fight here for victory overall and in Pro today. This may not be over yet. Chad Henson still battling with Julian Jones for 6th place. Jones trying to go around the outside. Everyone over it into the pit lane. I think Onofre's picked up a black flag, perhaps for instant points. We will get an understanding of what's happened there to Onofre, but that's going to send him a long way down the order. And well, ladies and gentlemen, we can confirm that he's coming to the pits, Onofre, and the reason for it, I wonder if this is fuel, where he makes his way down pit lane. And the answer is going to be, is it a black flag for what will be penalty points, or instant points we should say? It is. He makes his way in, and therefore that is going to be a very painful moment. And the same for Matt Best. He's coming to the pit lane. In fact, he's towed to the pit. And well, I wonder what's happened with Best. Is it a black flag for him as well? No, it's discontinuity. So a technical issue for Best in his Porsche. So that car has wilted under the pressure of reliability strain today. As we know, Edwin Offred has wilted with what is an instant point and a drive-through penalty. So two very sudden stories there, but Matthew Morhart now with 3.5 seconds between himself and Ryan Otis. It could be safe here, because he's now got no pressure battling with another driver. It's unfortunate we did miss what happened there, because I suspect there was quite a story to be told with regards to that battle between them, and that's the way it's gone. And Ryan Otis right now Ahead of James Logsdon with Chad Henson a further 20 seconds back and really trying to keep everybody at bay. So Julian Jones and Edwin Offred ride with him at the moment. Well, definitely plenty of excitement. And Offred right now is going to try and pick his way through as quick as he can. And will make his way in towards turn number 7. Jones and Henson together here. And you see Tom Bryce behind. Now, Bryce, of course, Pro-Am leader. So therefore, he's going to be picking up the maximum points of any Pro-Am today if he does win this one. But if he can take some more points off these drivers in front, it will help his campaign out even more. So therefore, he might be feeling a little bit greedy at this point in time. But we'll have to wait and see whether the greed gets the better of him or whether Bryce decides to play it safe there and just sit behind. But we have lost best from this race, unfortunately, due to a technical issue with the car. And we'll wonderful to see that car head back out like Glenn Bratton's earlier on, or whether that is going to be it and Texas Speed Sim Racing will be packing up their bags and getting ready to make the trip to Florida. But Shahi Zahir comes on through, leaking for what is now the 19th time of asking. Jermaine Moran and Don Cepek right behind him there. Well, no change between these drivers, at least for now. But Chad Henson, we see here still having to deal with everyone behind as we look back from the rear of your 4th place runner, promoted from 5th to 4th as a result of what happened to Edwin Offred and Best as well. So major opportunity here. I don't think a podium is possible, but to be fair, whatever's possible right now, he's going to be landing some good points here as he heads down the start for this straight off line. And that's by default to try and break the slipstream here, as Henson simply puts himself on the inside. And interesting, what this will do is it's actually going to box in Jones now on the outside line here into turn number 1. Jones thinks about going for it as an off-break, giving a little bit of a push along. They're allowed to bump draft each other along to be fair, because it's a very gentle touch if you get it right. You can see Henson here going defensive. What he's doing is getting Jones and off-break to fight each other and making Jones have to take all the difficult lines, trying to make his way around the outside. That's not going to work through turn number 3. Will be a better exit though coming off the corner, so Henson's got to be ready now to defend the inside of turn number 5. But definitely right now, the Turbo Rensport driver getting absolutely settled into this one. And here comes Jones looking around the outside. And that Ford GTE definitely has picked up pace since the balance performance update on the straight. He's going to try and go for it here. Can he get it done, Jones? The answer is no. He locks up and goes a little bit deep. He's going to lose 1. He's going to lose 2. He loses them all. And Sonny Hill spills. Meanwhile, and off looking around the outside of Henson. Can he get it done to turn 6? The answer is no. And then Henson just simply saying, making himself 2 cars wide. And Onofre backs out there. But Bryce does lead his way past Julian Jones. And a small lock-up there for Julian Jones had major consequences. And now at the back of this quartet, he's got to try and find his way through all the way past all 3 of them. And with time running out because they've got this lap plus another 2 to go. Brilliant racing action between them, no doubt about it. But Julian Jones right now falling on down. It's not the way he's wanted it to go whatsoever. But we will see what's to be here, as I suspect there's going to be even more twist in the tail before this is all said and done. But that is definitely extremely exciting. And as they come roaring on through, right now, Chad Henson still in the battle with Offred. And Offred now trying to go around the outside and towards Canada Bend. Henson defending here. And Offred trying to take full place back. Onto the brakes they go. And as they do, turns in, just ahead and just squeezing ahead is Edwin Offred. Or is he? Because Henson's now going to try and go around the outside to inside through 13 to 14. That's not going to work. Henson has to cut it back in. And an Offred right now absolutely sticking to his guns here. Sticking to his confidence and seeing what he can manage and do as they come out to turn number 14 and onto the start finish straight they come. But as they do, we still have the question mark of what exactly happened to trigger that black flag for Edwin Offred. We will try and get a replay of that when we can, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe there was a bit of contact between himself and what was at the time Matthew Moorhart in the battle for the lead, and that happened all the way back on lap number 18. We'll see if we can get a replay of that after the race is complete. Jermaine Warren, we see here side by side with Shahi Zahir. Zahir trying to come back here for 8th place overall versus the Corvette driver. Second of your Pro-Ams, who does have the 3rd place Pro-Am driver right behind Donald Seebeck. So this race could still change. Matt Best is still in the pit lane. No sign of that car coming back out from the tarpauling. And well, here is going to be Zahir up the inside. Warren just runs a little bit deep. Well, it's going to be too wide down, all the way down towards turn number 5, or is it? As that BMW starts to just pull away a little bit, although you can see Warren picking up a slight side draft there. It's a very minor one they get in these GTE machines. It's going to work out potentially for him as they come down almost 3 wide there. Warren on the inside. And will we see Don Cepek trying to go up the inside of this fellow BMW driver? No, he won't. As meanwhile, Edwin off the road again. Now, I think there's been a bit of an altercation in towards turn number 5. He falls back into the clutch of this group. Shahi's out on the inside there. Warren has to respect the space. And coming down towards turn number 7, it's now going to be 2 wide into 7. These two will not stop fighting each other. This is absolutely brilliant racing between the Pro and the Pro as they head into the next braking zone. So here on the inside here and one on the outside. They're going to be close. They almost touch, but then they get away with it. And Shahi's there will take the place. Oh, and it goes wrong. Jermaine will go sideways, but he collects it to get a slight tap on the rear from Donald Cepek, who reacts as best as possible there. And they all survive that. I don't know how they managed to survive that, but my goodness, that could have been tears. But that's what happens when you're racing right on the limit. Someone's going to make a mistake, but make no mistake, they've all survived that one absolutely brilliant. brilliantly. What it does mean now that battle calms down, and suddenly the only battle we do have is the battle for 5th place here between Tom Bryce and Julian Jones is in close proximity. But as our leader, Matthew Morhart, makes way to his final lap with Ryan Otis only now 2 seconds behind and closing quick. Let's quickly take a look back in time at what exactly happened only moments ago for what was Edwin Offrey and also to none other than Julian Jones. And here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Edwin Offrey with Chad Henson. Henson a bit far back there. Onto the brakes they went. And Offrey losing it there as he came off the entry curve. The whole rear of the car just locking on him. Julian Jones went deep meanwhile. Wonder if there's quite a bit of gravel and dirt there we can't see on that corner. And that's what's causing everybody to stumble there. But it all went very wrong. But then we had this moment, only moments later, in the battle between Donald Seepet and Jermaine Warren and Shahi Zahair. This was Zahair finding his way through initially as they made the way up the rise in towards that corner. And well, he had to really dig in here to try and make the attack happen. But then rolling off the corner, well, we did see them come down the hill, and in fact, too wide, they went all the way towards what was the turn 8 left-hander, and Shahi's ahead defending as best he possibly could, and Jermaine Warren just running a little bit deep there in the rear of the car, letting go, but brilliant reactions here for everybody involved. A bit of contact, but they got away with it, and let's head back to live racing, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do, here is our leader right now. He's only half a lap away from seeing victory for the first time in his season campaign. Here's, of course, Matthew Morhart, but you can see Ryan Otis there closing 2 seconds. It was going on to lap. He's now 1.8 seconds behind. They won't be seeing another lap. It will be 22 and done today. It's such a brilliant race between them indeed. Round number 3 has kept us guessing every step of the way with 2 newcomer drivers right now who are looking to be securing the top 2 positions. Although you would argue, if it worked out differently on the open lap, could it have been Ryan Otis' win? Well, still Matthew Morhart's got to complete this final corner and run to the checker flag. But he does turn 14 with absolute aplomb. And for Matthew Morhart, well, this is a debut to be remembered. He may have started in 5th place, but in the end, there's only one place for him. It's 1st place. And the privateer Matthew Morhart in the number 12 takes victory here at Road America. Header Ryan Otis, who's the runner-up in a brilliant recovery drive. James Logsdon will continue his run of podiums with 3rd place today for Team Bear Pope behind the 2 privateers. And then it will be 24 seconds back before we do see your 4th place finisher. And my goodness, he's had to defend that place with his life practically today. Oh, that's what he'll feel like. But in the end, it is going to be 4th overall and 4th in pro. But Chad Henson in the number 93 as the Turbo Rennsport driver brings it on home ahead of Tom Bryce, who in the end, who round off the top 5 overall. But importantly for him, that is going to be prime victory. Edwin Offrey is into the pit lane, I believe. And that's going to promote Shahi Zahair up the order to 6th place in the end. We're a brilliant drive in the BMW for the number 10 driver, 5th in pro. Edwin Offrey is still in the pit, so therefore, will he be demoted behind Taylor Bookout? I suspect he will, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder if potentially there has been a further black flag for Edwin Offrey, perhaps an additional drive-through penalty that's been scored for more instant points. So in the end, he will be demoted backwards, and Taylor Bookout will take home that 7th place in the end, as an Offrey is confirmed to now go a lap down. Julian Jones will come home there in 8th place, and then we will see in 9th Donald Seepet, your run-up in the prime class there. What a brilliant drive from him today, sneaking ahead of Jermaine Warren. He'll be gutted. Did you see him brush the barrier there coming down the start-finish straight? He's fuming at missing out on that 2nd place, but the Corvette driver gave us an absolute epic, no doubt about it. And then Mark Senegal will come on home in 4th for the primes, 11th overall, and Edwin Offrey in the end will be demoted to 12th, with Glenn Bratton finishing the race a lap down in the end. Great to see the driver in his BMW had the technical issues early on, getting back out there, and he takes that 13th place. He parks it up in the gravel with Matt Best, sadly, our sole retiree from this race. Given the fact he finished 5 laps down, he will be classified as a finisher in 14th place. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute excitement every step of the way, and as all the drivers do calm on down, well, Matthew Morhart enjoying himself, no doubt about it. And today, just stayed out of trouble and played it right. Of course, there is the question mark of what happened on lap number 18 between himself and an Offrey. We are going to try and get a replay of that after we've walked through the race results. And as like we always say, the race results are subject to any stewards' inquiries, of which we suspect there might be a couple today, given the fact there were a couple of incidents early on in the race. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's look to the scenic view and walk you through those race results. And as we can see, after an absolutely epic 45 minutes of racing and a final lap here for round number 3 of 8 in the middle of the pack Racing League GTE League for 2026, brought to you on iRacing. Overall, it was Matthew Morhart who took victory, and in pro, the privateer on his debut, 1.7 seconds ahead. A fellow privateer of Ryan Otis, who started on pole, but unfortunately couldn't quite follow it up after the open lap incident between himself and also Matt Best and James Logsdon. James Logsdon was right behind, round off the podium there, making it 3 podiums in a row, but no win so far for Team Bear Pope. He was a further 4 seconds or so slower drift, and he was comfortably ahead of Chad Henson, 24 seconds behind, but to be fair, fighting hard for that 4th place every step of the way. We did see in 5th what was then none other than Tom Bryce, your Pro-Am winner today in the 272, and indeed taking a win that escaped in last time out at Watkins Glen, and he'll be pleased as punch with that, as that 5th place as well will see him take the championship lead going into the final round of the US Cup. He's ahead, was 6th ahead of Taylor Bookout, and then we did see Julian Jones in 8th place there in the Ford GTE, and showing the Ford's definitely got some life in it here at Road America, ahead of Donald Seepeck, who was runner-up in the Pro-Am class, 9th overall, and the Team Bear Poke driver in the end getting the upper hand on Jermaine Warren, who fell to the 3rd spot on the Pro-Am podium and 10th on the road. The middle of the pack Racing Drive had a frustrating end to the race, as did Mark Senegal have frustrations early on in the race with 2 major off tracks, and the Sunday GT turns for Drive having to take 11th place when he definitely did have the pace today be on that prime podium, and then Edwin Offred classified as finishing in 12th place, but effectively at the back of the field, ahead of Glenn Bratton, who was a lap down, and ahead of Matt Best, who was a sole retiree, but given the fact he is classified as finishing 5 laps down, he will be classified as the finisher for Texas Speed Sim Racing in 14th place. But what an epic race through and through, ladies and gentlemen. And then congratulations to all the drivers who saw the finish, but also big congratulations to our podium finishers, and particularly those taking bonus points in the Pro-Am class. So your winner, Tom Bryce, getting 3 points, and also Donald Seepeck and Jermaine Warren there completing off the Pro-Am podium. But with that, as we do settle things down, we do still have that question of what exactly happened on lap number 18 between our leaders and what perhaps triggered the black flag for Edwin Offred. So what we are going to do is we're going to be right back, and we're going to bring you a replay of what exactly happened, ladies and gentlemen. So stay with us. We'll be back in approximately 60 seconds' time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come back to the incident on lap number 18, which saw Edwin Offred pick up a black flag and spoil his chances of victory. And here it is. So as they made the way down what was the second straight, it was heading down towards turn number 5. And in the end, well, there's a tap to the rear of Matthew Morehart's car there from Edwin Offred by looks of things. And that's what sends him to the grass and triggers the instant point limit for Edwin Offred. Morehart outbraked himself there into the corner, so having to give up the lead there due to a mistake. And I suspect slightly unsettled by that contact. Innocent mistake, to be fair, from an off-route. I don't think there was any malice meant from that tap. And what he was trying to do, I think, was just simply ride the rear bumper of Morehart, try and push them both along a little bit of a bump draft all the way down towards the corner to stay clear of Rhinotes. But we believe that is what triggered the black flag for Edwin Offred, sadly. And it did mean the battle for the win in the end only went one way. And it went the way of Matthew Morehart, with Rhinotes running out of time over the race distance. And of course, these two enjoy an absolutely brilliant battle all the way through. And well, when it goes right, it goes perfectly right. But when it goes wrong, then the smallest of things we see, we end up in bits. And that is how, in the end, Matthew Morehart took the lead, and Edwin Offred sadly fell down the order. But with that, well, we are definitely now going to wrap things up, because that's the end of all of our racing today. You can see Offred then give up the spot there. That's where we caught up to them with change in the lead. But there's the context in case we missed it. And definitely we did miss it, and we all wanted to understand a bit of context. Indeed, an innocent mistake there, but an unfortunate one for Edwin Offred. And with that, it is now time to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you have enjoyed today's show here from Road America today, and if you're looking forward to plenty more, or you want to know how you get on the grid with the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, we definitely recommend you check out our official Discord. Invite link available on screen. Indeed, if you're sat there right now thinking, those GTs look awesome to race, and I definitely want to get on the grid with a very friendly community, we will be in a very good place here by joining the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Indeed, we've been going for the best part of half a decade, if not longer. Indeed, there's never been a bad day at the Middle of the Pack Racing League. There are only good days, and we'd love to obviously join the grid, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. Of course, if you don't want to go to our Discord, perhaps you're a little bit shy and instead want to follow us on social media, we can do so on our official Twitter at twitter.com/MOP Racing, where you stay up to date all the latest news and announcements and all things Middle of the Pack Racing League community. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, round number 3 is complete. And next time out, it'll be round number 4, and we'll be concluding the US Cup, the first half of the season, at the Sebring International Raceway. Now, you may notice there the broadcast date is a little bit later. It's going to be 3 weeks away. Don't fret, that's not an error. We are slightly changing and we'll be airing these broadcasts going forward, because the fact of the matter is, when we come to the end of a cup, and indeed the end of the championship, we want to be able to show you on the broadcast the end of season or end of cup results, and therefore we want to, on all the broadcasts going forward, be able to present to you what will be the championship standings going into the round and also the championship standings after the round. So therefore, we will be putting the broadcast on a week after the racing has occurred, on the Saturday that follows a week after, rather than the Saturday immediately after. So that means you do have to wait a little bit longer for our concluding broadcast of the US Cup in round number 4. But don't fret, the broadcast will continue to be of the same, if not even more quality, and we look forward to continuing the story when we pick it up in the US state of Florida on Saturday the 18th of April 2026. And going into that round, what exactly can we expect? Well, it's going to be James Logsdon who leads the way in the Pro Championship, but he's definitely got firm competition, not just from those who've been on the grid previously, but also newcomers, including Edwin Offred, Ryan Otis, and also Matthew Morehart, your winner from today. And in the Pro-Am class, where it seems though Tom Bryce finally taking that win eluded him at Watkins Glen, but will it be him or Jermaine Warren or Donald Sepek who's going to be bringing on home the Pro-Am honours in the US Cup? We'll tune in next time to find out how the story continues, but until then, ladies and gentlemen, we've been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning to a Paul Walsh production, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.